So, there's a new Predator movie. Not that you'd really know about it as it kind of just came out on streaming, but it's actually like really good, like really, really good.
Casual fans, I'm going to give it an A-. Cinephiles, I'm going to give it an A-. And critically, I'm going to give it a B+.
I really do. Well, I would caveat by saying, should we not at least be like, thank fuck we got that instead of another less than... So if we gave it numbers, just for the sake of it, we've been getting a lot of 1s, 2s, and 3s, basically for years. The second they release a 5, I want to be like, okay, that's better.
First reactions, I really enjoyed it. I don't really have too many complaints, and I actually kind of liked it a lot. But
I give it an A for effort, and maybe a B- or C+ for execution.
But as far as films go, this is a hit for Hulu, and I would recommend it.
I'll say it was a solid, fun time, no alcohol required.
Prey is a movie that I'd best describe as solid rather than spectacular. A competent mid-lister that hovers around the middle of the Predator franchise, neither terrible nor great. It's definitely a massive step up from the kind of garbage we normally get these days, and it has moments of real inspiration when it almost breaks through to become something special, but pretending it's on par with the original is nothing but wishful thinking.
Am I taking crazy pills? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Okay, so I need you to understand something. My videos get a grand total of like 5 views. I'm not adept at this sort of content. I don't know how to edit well enough to make this good or entertaining. And yet, I feel this visceral need to make this video. This movie was complete and utter garbage, and I simply cannot understand the praise it's getting. Even at worst, people are saying that it's middling with some redeeming qualities. I feel like if I had the know-how and time, I could do a Mahler-style unbridled rage, breaking down scene by scene how this movie is objectively bad, as a standalone, and even worse, as a Predator franchise entry. As it stands, I don't have the know-how or the time, so I can't go scene by scene. But that's not going to stop me from trying my damnedest to illustrate just how terrible this movie is. With that said, let's begin. To start, what is this sound? Did no one Google what an axe hitting a tree sounds like? Here, let me do that for you. Seriously, my friends and I thought it was a gunshot. There must have been an insane amount of force behind those hits. Which brings me to my first concern. We later find out that this axe was a memento from her late father. Why would she risk breaking it by continuously throwing it against a tree? The axe is flint and tied to a stick. Then we're treated to this gem. She claims to want to be a hunter, but doesn't seem to know how to hunt. What is she going to do? Throw her axe at the deer? Even now we don't hunt deer with the incorrect weapon because the deer will run away and die pointlessly deep in the woods. Assuming she could even get a mortal blow with an axe. Following that expert display of hunting prowess, we come to this very crucial scene, one that pretty much sets the stage concerning wounds in this movie. Admittedly, I don't know much about how fine the trigger of a bear trap is, but how does this even happen? Did the dog sit down and its tail brushed against the trigger, and that was enough? Are these things essentially mousetraps on a hair trigger? Somehow I doubt it, but feel free to correct me in the comments below. Regardless of how it happened, let me introduce you to the Wonder Drug, or as my friends and I lovingly referred to it as, the magic dirt. Seriously, this shit can heal anything. As long as you've got a pulse, this shit's got you. CG bad, moving on. This is where things start to really go wrong in terms of believability. Firstly, this fall she's about to take should just straight kill her. She falls at a great distance and lands on a rock. People have died from less. If you want her to have been knocked out, the ground was fine enough. Did they really have to include a rock? Second, what the hell is this throw? I'm not buying for a second that she has the strength to impale that lion from that distance at that angle with one hand. It left me so skeptical I looked it up. I was wondering if Native Americans threw spears or used them for thrusting. Turns out, they had spear throwers. Makes sense. Ha! Forced you to learn something. Look at this man. Does he even look winded despite carrying this lion over his shoulder from no telling how far away? Female mountain lions range from 64 to 140 pounds, 29 to 63 kilograms, and males are nearly double that at 120 to 220 pounds, 54 to 100 kilograms. You're telling me he's not even phased? Look, I'm not going to say that this scene makes her a poorly written character. If you want your character to be a bitch, that's fine. But she's a bad person. Her brother pulled off his test, and she can't even be happy for him in this moment. That's her family. If that's how she reacts to her own family, I can see why the tribe hates her. CG bad, moving on. Bad CG aside, what wolf acts like this? Especially a lone wolf. As a pack, they won't risk attacking when there's a chance at retaliation. But you're telling me this lone wolf is going to charge right up to this invisible target that just sent it sprawling? Assuming nothing is broken from that hit, this wolf should have stood up and run off in fear. Then we follow up this dumb scene with an even dumber scene. Look, I pretend to like anime too, but this shit does not need to be in a Predator movie. You may think it's cool, but all it does is further highlight how nonsensical things have become. And yes, I know they did it in Predators too. It's literally the only scene in Predators I even remember anymore. I hated it there too. Hey look, she still sucks at hunting. I sure hope she manages to get magically better by the story's finale. This is the most cartoony shit ever. Not only would the rope completely change the throwing dynamics of the axe, pulling it back like that isn't going to bring it straight to your hands, Scorpion style. Also, something to take note of? Scorpion throws a spear, which doesn't need to rotate. It's not a fucking axe! What the hell do I know? I guess tying a rope of questionable durability to an axe and magically learning martial arts was all she needed to become a good hunter. CG bad, moving on. I legitimately don't know what her plan is here. That's a bear. Your bow looks like it has the draw strength of like 20-25 pounds. You need at least 50 to kill a standard bear, and a grizzly takes 65. All her bow is going to do here is piss it off. Explain this to me. The bear is actively trying to get into the super awesomely strong built beaver dam. She's safe. Bear collapses into it. Suddenly the dam is made of wet paper towel. Which is it? I must confess that upon first viewing, I was under the impression that any amount of water would short the cloak, and this made me rage as it's a fundamental Predator trope. But when looking for supporting evidence, I found that small puddles won't short the cloak. You know what does short the cloak, though? Being submerged. You know, like right here, when the bear smashes this predator into the creek, submerging him? Stupid lore shit aside, it's not even the worst offense in this scene. I want you to watch this. Just watch and tuck it in the back of your mind. Just keep it there. We're gonna revisit it. Look, I get that we can't see them, so somehow she can't see them despite looking in their general direction as she walks. But when we pan over, why is Sadako here notched and ready to fire? He's been able to see who she is for a while. What is this reveal even supposed to convey to the audience? I can tell you what it's not conveying to the audience. That our heroine is a thinking, feeling human being. Think about it. Native Americans have a reputation for being a very spiritual people, and I'm going to assume that at the turn of the 18th century, they were even more so spiritual and superstitious. This girl just witnessed a divine spirit of the forest kill an apex predator. A demigod just appeared before her, and she acts like it's Tuesday. In fact, listen to how she describes the creature.
It looked like a moot beats.
Like. It's like a creature of myth. And how do her tribesmen respond?
You saw a monster from a children's story?
Smugly laughing and responding, "A monster from a children's story?" This is the infection of modern sensibilities in a period piece. These are the most skeptical, super spiritual, and superstitious Native Americans one could ever find. And keep in mind, this is the early 1700s. Just a friendly reminder that she still has a concussion that should have laid her out for at least 2 weeks. And this glorious sucker punch probably made it worse. I had a conversation with my friends back and forth on what our heroine should actually be able to see here. In doing this video, I've come to the conclusion that the answer is the opposite of the last scene. We can see it, so she can see it, despite his back being to her. What she can learn from this encounter will become important very soon. This design drives me insane. His mask doesn't have a rebreather. When a mask is removed, a gas is released, their own personal atmosphere. And yes, while the OG Predator took his mask off for a duel, Predator 2 established that they can't breathe it for long. It's lacking something they need. I will admit, if this were some blood god in a fantasy, and that wasn't a mask, it'd look cool. It's the lack of respect for the lore that drives me nuts. It's a fucking rock, not Damascus steel. I call bullshit that it cut that easily. And here's that moment. We saw it, so she saw it. She knows what those dots mean, even though there was no way she could have seen them with the initial attack. Snapped ankle? Don't worry about it, she's got magic dirt, it'll be fine. Now I've got a question. Why did the Predator stop killing? He's got 4 more prospective trophies in these, how shall we say, scurvy-ridden cavemen. So, what made him stop? I'm actually surprised that they took the time to acknowledge the wound here, considering how little it'll hamper her in the future. This part of the movie really confuses me. These men are portrayed as barbaric and overly cruel. They clearly exist only to up the body count, and they are villainized so that we the audience don't feel bad when they all get slaughtered. They seem to know about the Predator already, which I feel like we should have seen some hints at leading up to this point. A human skull on the Predator's belt before any Comanche deaths, or maybe some actual gunshots heard in the distance rather than a stone axe hitting a tree. But what of their motivation? They try to get our heroine to help them, but the translator never mentions anything along the lines of,
"This thing that's killing your people and mine."
So why are they hunting it? They're trappers, so they want to trap it, I guess? But to what end? Get it? Billy was an Indian. This dude's an Indian. Parallels! Some dialogue to explain this would have been really nice. So obviously, the French understand the Predator's cloak enough that ash in the air will make it visible? Somebody commenting on that might have been nice. There is the language barrier, but this shift was so jarring, I had no idea what was going on. I guess predators just kill unarmed and fleeing prey now. It's not about honor and it's not about sport. They just, they kill whatever the fuck they want to kill now. Because, keep in mind, this guy did not have a weapon. Wait. Shh. Quiet. He's about to give the line.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
But I have a question. How do you know? Again, you come from a time of gods and spirits. Maybe they bleed, but can't be killed. Oh right, that's right. It's not about making sense. It's about recreating this.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
So people can get nostalgic. I'm not going to spend much time talking about this fight scene. I think it's stupid. It's an action scene with a bruiser rather than a horror suspense scene against a hunter. This shit reminds me of every other terrible action movie that's out there. In my opinion, there are no redeeming qualities in this fight at all. But that is just my opinion. That being said, I have got to take a moment to point out how ridiculous this is. Just look at it. What is this anti-gravity technique? Speaking of things that don't make sense, how does this even work? Alright, maybe I'm getting a little too nitpicky here. I was going to move on from this fight, but I keep seeing new things. So I wondered where he got this other bear trap that he did his super cool ninja star trick with. And it's a blink and you'll miss it moment. He falls down and it closes on his arm. Note here, there is no chain attached to it. Also, the arm looks fake as hell. Then he flings his arm and tosses it, never taking the time to reset the trap or even address the wounds that should be on his arm. Now you might be asking, how does a 100-pound girl beat up 5 men? Well, with the martial arts that she magically learned when she tied the rope to the axe, obviously. What'd I tell you? Magic dirt works every time. This is a scene where she learns the Predator sees via heat, but it makes absolutely no sense. We aren't even going to address how dumb a flower that drops your body temperature so quickly even is, nor how your organs would go into shock. That all speaks for itself. What I'm concerned about is how she came to this conclusion. She has no reason to believe he sees via heat, and he walked up to the man no problem. Maybe he didn't react because he thought it was a corpse. Hell, I know she did the magic dirt on his leg and everything, but by all rights, he could have felt cold because of blood loss. The man might be dead by this point for all she knows. Ninja horses, ninja. On first viewing, my friends and I questioned how she could even see this. I wanted to be charitable, and I assumed that she put it together at some point. But honestly, she couldn't see it, and she was busy trying to figure out the pistol. This is another case of we saw it, so she saw it. This whole scene made me cringe into oblivion, but it's worth noting that it's lucky for our heroine that the Predator only hunts via sight, and his other senses are absolute garbage. Oh, wait. Maybe this one just has a disability or something. I literally broke out laughing at this scene. I just couldn't even help it. Alright, now we get to the worst moment of this entire movie. Remember that bear scene I told you to tuck away? This Predator can lift 1,000 pounds over its head. He's strong as fuck. But this 100-pound girl is about to overpower him in ways no human has ever overpowered a Predator. Not Dutch, not Glover, no one. Here we see her use the Predator's own spear to force its arm into its other arm. She has overpowered its arm in order to push it as she has. I don't believe it for even a split second. To make matters worse, does this Predator even feel pain? He just cut off his fucking arm. Wait, they're aliens. Maybe they don't feel pain. Again, I stress, lifted a bear over his head. Now it has her around the neck and has slammed her on the ground. This bitch is dead! I want you, as a grown adult, most likely male, to push down on a preteen and tell them to slide forward with 1 foot. That's not even taking into account how helpful the terrain is for all this sliding around she does. There's quite a bit of stupid happening in this one scene, so I'll need to break it down. Firstly, look at how large that shield is. How the hell did she reach around it in order to grab the Predator? Second, I don't believe for a fact that the Predator's mandibles are just some dried twigs that can be snapped. Third, how the hell did she get free? They took the time to emphasize that the blades were centimeters from her neck, yet somehow snapping the twig freed her? But Draco, she stabbed him in the arm with his tooth. Oh, so now he feels pain? But even then, His arm didn't come up when that happened. So she power slides under the Predator, stabs him in the leg, then climbs on top of him, wraps the rope, jumps off of him, then pulls on the rope, and he drops like a rotted log. I think the whole scene is stupid, but by far the thing I absolutely hate the most is when she jumps off over the pit, she doesn't like use her body weight to topple him, she pulls with her arms. The Predator is like 500 pounds. It sure is lucky that her rope of questionable durability and her tiny arms just can produce that kind of strength.
Do it. Come on, do it.
Look! She said another of the lines! I hate this movie so much. So, if the Predator doesn't use his railgun here, she's dead. If it just keeps walking towards her, she's dead. It's mighty lucky of her that it decided to shoot her. How did she know how deep this pit was? I mean, these beams aren't aimed at the Predator's torso. It's its head. She had to know exactly where it was going to come out of the pit. Honestly, she shouldn't have sunk to her neck like she did earlier in the movie, considering it looks like it's only about 3 to 4 foot deep, seeing about half of the Predator is exposed. While it's not as bad as The Predator, that doesn't give this movie a pass as being some return to form. The movie was terrible. If I were telling this story, I think I would have had the Predator win. How scary is a monster that is now 0 for 5? Barring that, I wouldn't have made it a one-on-one scenario. Our heroine should have gone back to the tribe and rallied them to action. Maybe even banded with the French. It's ridiculous that this movie expects me to believe this 100-pound girl went toe-to-toe with the Predator and walked away clean. Just look at her at the end. Now look at Dutch and Harrigan.
Harrigan! What the fuck happened in there? Huh?
Do you see a difference? There is honestly so much more I could complain about, but I have already spent nearly a week putting this together, and no one's going to watch it. But you know what? I got it out of my system.